If you're about to buy a luxury watch, this video could literally save you thousands. Luxury watches are about to get way more expensive, and I mean like so much more expensive. From Rolex to Omega to Patek, Philippe, prices in the US are about to feel the heat most, and it's all thanks to these bloomin' new tariffs. So let's break down exactly what's happening, how it affects collectors, and what you should do prior to August the 7th. Let's start with what has actually happened. So Donald Trump has just signed off a sweeping executive order slapping tariffs of 10 to 41% on goods from over 60 countries. But Switzerland in particular, which is where we'll put our focus on in this video, has been slapped with a 39% tariff. Now, you might remember a lot of this chat during Watches and Wonders, and that's because the same thing kind of happened during Watches and Wonders, but there was a period in which they were going to figure out a deal, figure out a way around it. They didn't reach that agreement subsequently, so as of the 7th, these tariffs are going to come into play. So let's get into specifics. What does this mean for our industry, our beloved watch industry? Well, firstly, most high-end timepieces are actually imported into the US. Brands like Rolex, Omega, AP, Patek, Tudor, they will be hit with tariffs on every single import. And remember that this is a 39% tariff. That is absolutely humongous. Now, I can imagine if the tariff was around about, I don't know, let's say 10%, that the luxury industry would be able to swallow that. They'd be able to take that. And it might not directly impact their prices because it's only one market. The problem with the US is it's an absolutely humongous market. So as a result of the tariffs not being that 10% level and being 39%, there's no way that the Swiss watch industry is going to eat that profit, is going to eat that tariff. Instead, the rates are going to be passed to not the business, but the consumer. To us, essentially. I'm going to talk in dollars just because I know this is mostly to do with the US. Let's say you have a Omega Seamaster at $7,000, roughly speaking. This could now fetch, with the increase of these tariffs and the kind of rates that they might compensate to kind of bring the prices up to combat these tariffs, you might then be paying $9,000 for an Omega Seamaster. There's many retailers that are already planning for these huge price hikes. This isn't scaremongering. I'm not trying to tell you guys something that isn't factual. This is real, and it's literally days away. Now, as another consequence to these tariffs, brands like Watches of Switzerland, if we look at their stocks and share prices, they're at essentially year to date an all-time low. They had a tanking during Watches and Wonders when this was originally introduced around about the 2nd of April, and then after which there was more buyer confidence, so it started to go up a little bit, and now it's tanked even more. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Will people still buy these watches despite the price increases? The luxury watch market is strong, but it's not bulletproof. I would predict a huge shift away from mid-tier luxury, and the reason being that people that are going for high luxury normally have the cash to stretch, whereas mid-tier couldn't pay higher prices due to economic uncertainty, etc., etc. And this is a huge red flag for that middle layer, the Tudors, Omegas of this world. Yeah, the hype watches might hold some degree of value just because you have a larger pool of people wanting those watches with a lot more income. But I do think that the mid-tier range, let's say Breitling, Tudor, Omega, are going to really suffer here. Casual buyers might postpone purchases, wait for the grey market, or skip entirely. Or alternatively, they might just fly somewhere else that doesn't have inflated prices. Now, we in the UK saw a lot of this. A lot of people would come in to Chisholm Hunter, where we're official stockists of a ton of different brands. They look at a ton of the watches, then they fly to Ireland so that they could claim the VAT back. It's essentially the same as the Americans flying to the UK so that they don't get hit with those tariffs when in America. So what's going to happen next? What is the crux of this video? What am I trying to tell you right now? So here's what I predict. And remember that if we've learned anything about the US, and I don't want to get into the political BS that surrounds politics, but if we've learned anything about the politics in the US, this is extremely, extremely liquid. And it's subject to change at any point. And this is partially why the stock market is absolutely cacking its pants at the moment, because It's so unpredictable. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So I predict that US retailers will rush to bring back as much inventory as they can before August the 7th. This means a flood of watches to the market before this point. After that, I'd expect huge price hikes, let's say around about 20% minimum. I'd expect thinner stock levels because watch brands will want to supply different countries other than the US because it's more profitable. And I'd also anticipate slower deliveries as other regions, let's say like the UK or India or this kind of thing, will get more, they'll be higher on the list for the Swiss watch industry to send watches out to. Now, an interesting point to note is that this could actually potentially increase prices on the secondary market in the US. And why, you say? Why? That sounds absolutely crazy. And I know it does, but when you think of Rolex's kind of ethos, it's all about rarity, it's all about scarcity, it's all about the fact that you can't buy a Rolex when you walk into a store, hence why people will pay above the Rolex's price to get it on the secondary market. If you make Rolexes or all brands more scarce within the US, there will be a portion of people that will pay more just to get them on the secondary market. Now, whether that 20% will kind of be absorbed and it will go above that or not, it's yet to be seen. But it could potentially, and I'd like your thoughts on this, but it could potentially hike those prices on the pre-owned market within the US. Next up is that the grey market will grow. And the reason that the grey market will grow is because buyers will start sourcing from non-US countries just to avoid the blooming tariffs. Next up in the predictions is that small micro brands within the US, brands like Brew or Shinola, will have huge spikes in interest due to them being able to create watches at a lower price at potentially the same quality as the Swiss because the Swiss are paying that 39% tariff. And tariffs aren't just going to hit the finished article. They're not just going to hit watches in general. They could also hit the key components, dials, cases, movements. Production delays are almost guaranteed. And if you want to get a watch service, this will definitely affect you. So what does this mean for you? Let me just cut to the chase really quickly. If you are in the US and you're wanting a luxury watch, you're about to pull the trigger on something, then do it before the 7th of August. And if you do it before the 7th of August, these then come into play. Your watch that you have and you've paid for could be worth a lot more within the US market. If you're shopping for Omega, Tudor, Cartier, then you can expect to see price hikes extremely soon. And I would predict these would fall between 15 and 20%, but they could be even higher. For us collectors out there, I mean, this could literally be the point to grab your dream watch before it goes out of reach. I remember getting my Tudor Black Bay when it sat around about £2,500 to £3,000. They're now up at almost £4,100. So there's huge price increases. And as a collector, as a watch enthusiast, a lot of the watches that I want, like the Tudor Black Bay Opaline dial, the Tudor Black Bay Pro, with that 20% added on, I don't think I could get there. I really, really don't. So I think this is actually a huge opportunity at the moment for collectors to get their dream watches prior to these prices lifting and the watches thus being out of reach. We are living through a really weird time at the moment. There's so much uncertainty in every single market, whether it's car manufacturing, luxury watches, the stock market, even blooming clothing is having ups and downs and peaks and troughs. It's really, really strange. Now, remember, guys, that this is all liquid and it could change in the blink of an eye. I mean, nobody expected these tariffs to come in when they did, and nobody expected them not to reach an agreement. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are these tariffs going to have that direct impact that I believe they will? Or do you think by the 7th, they'll have reached a deal and it might only sit at a 10% tariff? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have found this useful and you do enjoy these videos, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys real soon.